Commander Elena Martinez stood at the observation deck of Fort Bradley Military Training Center, watching the alien shuttle descend through Earth's atmosphere. The massive vessel's sleek purple hull gleamed in the morning sun, its anti-gravity systems creating gentle ripples in the grass below. After 15 years of diplomatic relations with the Galactic Federation, this moment would either make or break humanity's standing in the interstellar community. "Status report," she commanded, not taking her eyes off the approaching vessel. Lieutenant James Cooper checked his tablet. "All systems are green, Commander. The Arcturus delegation is right on schedule. Training grounds are prepped, and all instructors are in position." Elena nodded, her weathered features betraying none of the anxiety churning in her stomach. This wasn't just another training cycle, it was the first time in galactic history that a primitive species would be teaching advanced combat techniques to members of the Federation's elite forces. The shuttle touched down with impossible grace, its landing struts barely making a sound as they contacted the tarmac. Elena straightened her uniform and made her way to the landing pad, flanked by her senior staff. The ship's doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing 7 figures that would change the course of human-alien relations forever. First came Ambassador Tal, his crystalline body structure catching the sunlight and creating dancing patterns on the ground. Behind him, 6 military cadets from different species filed out, 2 Zenthians with their characteristic 4 arms and iridescent scales, 3 Proxians whose biomechanical augmentations hummed softly in the morning air, and 1 Malurian whose gaseous form was contained within an environmental suit. Commander Martinez, Tal's translator unit converted his crystalline vibrations into perfect English. "We are honored to be the first class of the Interspecies Combat Training Initiative." Elena stepped forward, offering the traditional Federation greeting, right hand over her heart, palm facing outward. "The honor is ours, Ambassador. Welcome to Fort Bradley, where we'll be spending the next 6 months together." As they walked toward the briefing room, Elena couldn't help but notice the barely concealed skepticism in the alien cadet's expressions. She'd seen that look before, during the initial diplomatic meetings. The Federation species considered themselves far advanced beyond humanity in every way, technology, culture, ethics. Yet here they were, sending their best and brightest to learn from the primitive humans. The briefing room fell silent as Elena activated the holographic display. "Let's address the elephant in the room," she began, using an idiom that made the translator units work overtime. "You're wondering why the Federation's military council chose Earth for this program." The Zenthian cadet, Clara, raised one of her 4 hands. "With respect, Commander, our species achieved space flight thousands of years before humans. Our weapons technology is centuries ahead of yours. What could we possibly learn here?" Elena smiled, remembering the classified reports about the recent skirmish between Federation forces and the Drachnid pirates. Despite their advanced technology, Federation casualties had been catastrophic. They'd won through superior numbers, not superior tactics. "Technology isn't everything, Cadet Clara. Humanity has spent its entire history learning to fight smarter, not just better equipped. We've mastered the art of adaptation, of using limited resources to maximum effect. And most importantly," she paused, making eye contact with each alien cadet, "we've learned that the most powerful weapon isn't the one in your hands, it's the one in your mind." She brought up footage from various human conflicts throughout history, showing how inferior forces had prevailed through strategy, determination, and innovative thinking. The aliens watched in fascination as armies with primitive weapons overcame supposedly superior forces. "Tomorrow," Elena continued, "we begin with basic firearms training. I know your species consider projectile weapons obsolete, but I promise you'll understand why we're starting there by the end of the day." As the briefing concluded and the cadets were shown to their quarters, Ambassador Tal lingered behind. "Commander," he spoke softly, "the Council has placed great faith in this program. Some members believe it will fail spectacularly." Elena's expression remained neutral. "And what do you believe, Ambassador?" Tal's crystalline structure shifted, creating what Elena had learned was the equivalent of a thoughtful smile. I believe, Commander, that the galaxy is about to learn why humanity has survived despite all odds. Tomorrow will be illuminating. Little did any of them know just how right he would be. Dawn broke over Fort Bradley's tactical range as Master Sergeant Marcus Reynolds methodically arranged the weapons on the demonstration table. The morning dew caught the first rays of sunlight, creating an ethereal mist that swirled around his boots. He'd been training soldiers for 20 years, but today's class would be unlike any other. Everything ready, Sergeant. Commander Martinez approached, her boots crunching on the gravel. Yes, ma'am. Though I still think starting them with the basics might be. He paused, searching for the right word, underwhelming for our guests. Elena smiled. Trust me on this one, Marcus. Sometimes the simplest lessons have the biggest impact. The alien cadets arrived precisely on schedule, their environmental suits adjusted for the early morning humidity. Clara, the Zenthian, immediately focused on the weapon display, all four of her arms twitching with barely contained curiosity. These are projectile weapons, asked Krental, one of the Proxians, his biomechanical eyes whirring as they zoomed in on the table. We expected to begin with energy weapon training. Marcus picked up an M4 carbine, his movements deliberate and practiced. Today, we're going back to basics. Before we get to the fancy stuff, you need to understand the fundamental principles of combat shooting. The aliens exchanged glances that clearly conveyed their skepticism. Their civilizations had moved beyond chemical propellant centuries ago. Even the most basic Federation pulse rifle was more advanced than anything on the table. First principle, Marcus continued, ignoring their reactions, is that technology can fail. When it does, the basics will save your life. He field-stripped the M4 with practiced ease, laying out the components. Second principle, understand your weapon inside and out. If you can't fix it in the field, it's just dead weight. Clara raised her upper right hand. Sergeant, our weapons are self-diagnosing and self-repairing. They don't require manual maintenance. And what happens when an EMP fries those systems? Elena interjected. Or when you're in a radiation field that disrupts your power cells. The question hung in the air, unanswered. Marcus continued the lesson, demonstrating proper stance, trigger discipline, and sight alignment. Despite their initial reluctance, the alien cadets found themselves drawn into the methodical precision of it all. Then came the moment that would later be described in countless Federation military reports. Time for some practical application, Marcus announced, setting up simple paper targets at various distances. Let's see how you handle recoil management. The Proxians went first, their augmented reflexes helping them adjust quickly to the unfamiliar weapons. The Malurian, despite their gaseous nature, showed surprising aptitude through their environmental suits' handling systems. But it was Clara who changed everything. Using all four arms, she developed an entirely new shooting stance that none of the human instructors had ever seen. Her accuracy was unprecedented, able to engage multiple targets simultaneously with a level of coordination that shouldn't have been possible with primitive weapons. Holy shit, Marcus whispered, watching Clara execute a perfect four-target drill with four different weapons. Commander, are you seeing this? Elena was already recording the session on her tablet. This is exactly what I hoped would happen, Sergeant. We're not just teaching them, we're learning too. The morning progressed into complex drills combining movement, cover, and target discrimination. The alien cadets began to understand why humans still valued these skills. In the chaotic reality of combat, the ability to function without relying on advanced technology could mean the difference between life and death. During the lunch break, Ambassador Tull appeared at the range, his crystalline form reflecting the midday sun. Commander, news of this morning's training has already reached the Federation Council. Elena raised an eyebrow. That was fast. Problems? Quite the opposite, Tull's translator conveyed what sounded like excitement. The council is astounded. The combat applications of combining our physiologies with your fundamental techniques, they're requesting permission to send more observers. More than that, Clara joined the conversation, still holding an M4 with her lower arms while cleaning it with her upper ones. We need to revise our entire combat doctrine. The Federation has relied too heavily on technological superiority. We've forgotten the importance of adaptability. Marcus watched as the other cadets continued practicing, their movements becoming more fluid and natural with each repetition. You know what this means, Commander? Elena nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. We've just changed the game. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to teach others how to be better warriors, Tal finished. The Federation's military analysts are already calling this the Bradley Revolution in combat tactics. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the range, Elena watched her alien students master skills that their civilizations had dismissed as obsolete centuries ago. Tomorrow, they would move on to more advanced techniques, but today had proven something crucial. In the vast expanse of space, sometimes the oldest lessons were the most valuable. The sound of gunfire continued well into the evening, each shot marking another step toward a future where humans and aliens would learn from each other's strengths. And somewhere in the galaxy, the news was spreading, humanity had more to offer than anyone had expected. The Federation News Network's holographic broadcast flickered across every major system in controlled space. The headline rotated in 12 different languages: Human military training revolutionizes Federation combat doctrine. Commander Elena Martinez watched the report from her office at Fort Bradley, her coffee growing cold as she absorbed the implications. The leaked footage of Clara's forearm shooting technique had gone viral across the galaxy, spawning countless analysis videos and heated debates. They're calling it the Martinez Doctrine now, Lieutenant Cooper said, entering with a fresh stack of communiques from Federation High Command. Every major military force in the galaxy wants to send representatives. Elena sighed, rubbing her temples. And how many threats have we received? 3 from the isolationist faction, 2 from the tech purists, and 1 very strongly worded complaint from the Synthetic Rights Alliance. Cooper paused, checking his tablet. Oh, and the Dragnid pirates have put a bounty on any information about our training methods. Outside the window, the training grounds had transformed. What started as a simple range now hosted representatives from 20 different species. The original 6 cadets had become instructors themselves, teaching their own species-specific adaptations of human combat techniques. Commander, the intercom crackled, Ambassador Tal requests your presence at the Emergency Council meeting. Priority Alpha. The council chamber was packed when Elena arrived. Holograms of Federation leaders filled the tiered seats, their various forms creating a spectacular display of alien diversity. Tal stood at the center, his crystalline form pulsing with what Elena had learned to recognize as anxiety. The motion before the council, the Archspeaker's voice boomed, concerns the immediate classification of all human military training techniques as strategic-level technology. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Strategic-level classification would restrict access to human training to only the highest levels of Federation military command. Elena stepped forward. Distinguished council members, with respect, you're missing the point entirely. The chamber fell silent. It was almost unheard of for a non-council member to speak without recognition. What we're teaching isn't technology. It's a mindset. A way of thinking that can't be classified or controlled. We're showing your forces how to function when technology fails, how to adapt when plans go wrong, how to think creatively in combat situations. Clara, now wearing the insignia of a Federation combat instructor, joined her. The commander is correct. 3 days ago, I led a training exercise where we deliberately disabled all advanced technology. The squad had to navigate, communicate, and complete their mission using only basic tools and human techniques. They performed better than any purely tech-dependent unit. The council erupted in debate. On the main display, footage played of Procyon soldiers combining their biomechanical augments with human CQC techniques, creating entirely new forms of combat. Another screen showed Malurian gas-form troops using modified human infiltration tactics that made them virtually undetectable. Order! The Archspeaker's voice cut through the chaos. We must consider the broader implications. Commander Martinez, your training program has exceeded expectations. But there are concerns about maintaining the balance of power. Elena smiled. The balance of power shifted the moment you decided humans had something to teach you. We can't put this knowledge back in the box. But we can help guide how it's used. Tal's form brightened. Perhaps that's the solution. Instead of restricting this knowledge, we expand it. Create a formal exchange program. Let humans learn from our advanced technology while we learn from their tactical expertise. The chamber buzzed with discussion. Elena watched as centuries of technological superiority collided with the undeniable evidence of human innovation. On the screens above, more footage played, a Zenthian Special Forces team using modified human tactics to rescue hostages from pirates, a Procyon Quick Reaction Force combining their tech with human urban combat techniques to evacuate civilians from a natural disaster. There's something else you should consider, Elena added, her voice carrying across the chamber. Every species here has evolved different capabilities, different ways of thinking. By learning human combat basics, they're not just copying our techniques, they're creating entirely new ones. Flera's four-armed shooting stance isn't human or Zenthian, it's something entirely new. The Archspeaker's hologram leaned forward. And you believe this, hybridization of combat techniques will continue? It's already happening. Yesterday, a Malurian trainee figured out how to use their gaseous form to create smokescreen effects while maintaining precise fire control. Last week, a Procyon unit developed a new close-quarters battle system that integrates their biomechanical advantages with human hand-to-hand techniques. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about humans teaching aliens, it was about creating an entirely new form of warfare, one that combined the best aspects of every species. The motion to classify human military training is withdrawn, the Archspeaker announced. Instead, I propose we establish the Interspecies Combat Evolution Center, with Fort Bradley as its primary campus. As the council erupted in applause, Elena felt Tal's crystalline hand on her shoulder. You knew this would happen, didn't you? From the very first day. Elena watched as another group of alien cadets arrived on the landing pad below. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our ability to take different ideas and forge them into something new. We're not just teaching combat, we're teaching innovation itself. The sun set over Fort Bradley, casting long shadows across training grounds that were rapidly becoming the galaxy's premier military academy. In the distance, the sound of gunfire mixed with energy weapons as human instructors worked alongside alien counterparts, creating something that neither civilization could have achieved alone. The galaxy was changing, one lesson at a time. The emergency klaxons at Fort Bradley blared to life at 0300 hours. Commander Elena Martinez was already running toward the command center when Lieutenant Cooper's voice crackled over her comm unit. Commander, we've got a situation in Training Zone 7. The Drachnid pirates, they've somehow gotten past our outer defenses. Elena's jaw tightened. The pirates had finally made their move, determined to steal the secrets of the human-alien training program. As she burst into the command center, the tactical display showed multiple hostile signatures converging on the facility. Status of our trainees, she demanded, scanning the screens. That's the thing, Commander, Cooper replied, a hint of amazement in his voice. They're already responding. Take a look. The security feeds showed something extraordinary. Without waiting for orders, the alien cadets had seamlessly integrated with the human security forces. Flera was coordinating a 4-team response using modified human small unit tactics, her 4 arms manning both conventional and energy weapons. The Procyon cadets had networked their biomechanical systems to create a real-time battlefield awareness grid, sharing it with their human counterparts. "They're not just using our tactics," Master Sergeant Reynolds observed, watching a Malurian trainee phase through walls to flank the pirates. "They're combining everything they've learned into something entirely new." The pirates had expected to find a soft target, a training facility filled with instructors and students. Instead, they encountered a unified force that moved with precision and purpose. Human marksmen provided covering fire while Zenthian shock troops advanced using their multiple limbs to maintain both offense and defense. Proxian human fire teams leapfrogged through the complex, their movements synchronized with devastating effect. "Commander," Tal's voice resonated through the command center as he entered, his crystalline form pulsing with urgency. "The Federation Council is watching this live. They're impressed." Elena barely heard him, focused on the tactical display. The pirates were being systematically cornered and contained, but something wasn't right. Their attack pattern seemed too calculated, too precise. "This isn't just a raid," she muttered, studying the data. "They're testing us. Trying to see how humans and aliens fight together under real combat conditions." As if confirming her suspicion, the pirate forces suddenly shifted tactics. They deployed sonic disruptors, weapons specifically designed to incapacitate certain alien physiologies. But they'd underestimated the training program's impact. "Look!" Cooper pointed to the feeds. Human soldiers were carrying affected Zenthian allies to safety while Malurian troops provided cover. Procyon medics applied emergency treatments using a combination of their advanced tech and human field medicine techniques. "They're not just fighting together," Tal observed, his voice filled with wonder. "They're protecting each other. Compensating for each species' vulnerabilities." The battle reached its climax when Clara led a mixed-species strike team into the pirates' command post. The footage would later become required viewing at every Federation military academy, four-armed Zenthian combat techniques merged with human CQC, supported by Procyon cyber warfare and Malurian infiltration tactics. Within hours, the attack was over. The captured pirates revealed what Elena had suspected: they'd been hired by a consortium of military contractors worried about losing their influence over Federation defense spending. In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the wounded and security forces secured the perimeter, something unprecedented happened. The alien cadets and human instructors gathered in the main mess hall, sharing stories and treating each other's injuries. Species that had been suspicious of each other weeks ago now fought as one unit, trusted each other with their lives. "Commander," Clara approached, her uniform showing signs of combat but her posture proud. "We need to discuss expanding the training program. What happened tonight, it proves that we're stronger together than apart." Elena watched as a human medic showed a Procyon how to apply traditional battlefield first aid when their tech was disrupted, while nearby, a Malurian demonstrated to human trainees how to use their environment to maximum tactical advantage. "The pirates did us a favor," she replied. "They wanted to expose our weaknesses, but instead, they revealed our greatest strength, our ability to adapt and work together." Tal's crystalline form shimmered with what Elena had learned was their equivalent of pride. "The Council is already drafting new protocols. They want to establish joint human-alien response forces based on the Fort Bradley model." As the sun rose over the facility, Elena stood at the observation deck, watching the mixed-species teams clean up and repair the damage together. The pirates had tried to destroy what they'd built here, but they'd only made it stronger. "You know what this means," Cooper said, joining her at the window. "Everything changes from here." Elena nodded, thinking of the footage that was already spreading across Federation space, humans and aliens fighting side by side, protecting each other, combining their strengths in ways never before imagined. "No," she corrected him. "Everything already has changed. We're not just training soldiers anymore. We're building bridges between species, creating understanding that goes beyond combat techniques." In the training yard below, a new class was already assembling, twice the size of the previous one, with representatives from even more Federation species. The galaxy was watching, learning, adapting. Fort Bradley had become more than a military facility, it was becoming the crucible where the future of human-alien relations was being forged. And this was only the beginning. The autumn sun cast a golden glow over Fort Bradley's parade ground as thousands gathered for the first graduation ceremony of the Interspecies Combat Evolution Center. 6 months had transformed not just the facility, but the entire galaxy's approach to military cooperation. Commander Elena Martinez stood at the podium, surveying the assembled crowd. Federation diplomats sat alongside human military leaders. Families of both human and alien trainees filled the stands, a sight unimaginable just months ago. In the front row, the original 6 alien cadets sat in their ceremonial uniforms, their postures reflecting both their species' traditions and their newly acquired human military bearing. When we began this program, Elena started, her voice carrying across the hushed gathering, many thought we were attempting the impossible. Humans teaching advanced civilizations about combat. It seemed absurd. Clara, now wearing the insignia of a Federation combat integration specialist, nodded in agreement. Her 4 arms were perfectly still, a sign of formal respect she'd learned from human military protocol. But what we discovered wasn't just about teaching or learning, Elena continued. It was about evolution. Not the biological kind, but the evolution of understanding. Every species here brought their own strengths, their own perspectives. Together, we created something entirely new. The main display activated, showing highlights from the past 6 months, Zenthian troops teaching humans how to adapt their techniques for zero-gravity combat, Procyon engineers combining their biomechanical interfaces with human improvisation skills, Malurian infiltrators demonstrating how their gaseous forms could enhance human stealth tactics. The Drachnid pirates thought they could destroy what we built here, Elena gestured to the rebuilt sections of the facility. Instead, they proved why this program matters. When they attacked, they didn't find separate species training together, they found a unified force that transcended biological differences. Ambassador Tull stepped forward, his crystalline form refracting the sunlight into a dazzling display. The Federation Council has unanimously voted to establish Fort Bradley as the permanent headquarters for all joint species military training. Furthermore, the Martinez Doctrine is now required study at every Federation military academy. Applause thundered across the parade ground. Elena watched as human and alien graduates exchanged their respective military salutes, a beautiful mixture of traditions that symbolized everything they'd achieved. But our greatest achievement isn't measured in tactical innovations or combat effectiveness, Elena resumed. Look around you. 6 months ago, many of these species had never worked together. Some had centuries of mistrust between them. Now. She gestured to the stands, where a human child was sitting on a Zenthian's shoulders, playfully trying to count all 4 arms while the warrior patiently assisted. Nearby, a Procyon engineer was showing a group of human cadets how to interface their standard rifles with biomechanical targeting systems. We've created more than just better soldiers, Elena's voice softened with pride. We've created understanding. Trust. Friendship. Master Sergeant Reynolds approached the podium, carrying a ceremonial box. Inside was a modified M4 carbine, its surface etched with the names of every graduate from the first class. It would hang in the Fort Bradley Museum, a symbol of how far they'd come. This weapon, Elena lifted it carefully, represents our beginning. A simple human firearm that taught advanced alien species about the importance of basics, of adaptation, of thinking beyond technology. But look at what it became. The graduates stood as one, each holding their own weapons, unique hybrids of human and alien design that represented the program's evolution. Clara's 4-armed combat system had been standardized for all Zenthian forces. The Proxians had developed entirely new biomechanical interfaces based on human ergonomic principles. The Malurians had revolutionized their approach to combat, combining their natural abilities with human tactical doctrine. Today, you graduate not just as soldiers, but as pioneers, Elena declared. You've proven that the greatest strength any species can have is the wisdom to learn from others. The courage to question traditional methods. The vision to see beyond differences. Ambassador Tal's translator conveyed what could only be described as emotional resonance. Commander Martinez, the Federation Council has one more announcement. In recognition of Fort Bradley's contribution to galactic peace and cooperation, Earth has been nominated for full Federation membership, centuries ahead of the normal technological requirements. The announcement triggered another wave of applause, but Elena was watching the graduates. Their reactions told the real story, not surprise or celebration, but quiet acceptance. To them, it simply made sense. They'd moved beyond seeing each other as human or alien, advanced or primitive. They were simply warriors, comrades, friends. As the ceremony concluded, the graduates performed a unified salute that combined elements from every species present, a spontaneous gesture that brought tears to many eyes. The sun was setting over Fort Bradley, but it was rising on a new era of human-alien cooperation. Later that evening, Elena found herself back at the original shooting range where it all began. Clara joined her, all four arms clasped behind her back in a posture that blended Zenthian formality with human military bearing. "Did you know it would turn out like this?" Clara asked. "When you first proposed teaching primitive, human techniques to advanced species?" Elena smiled, watching new trainees from a dozen different worlds practicing together in the distance. "I knew we had something to teach. But what we learned, that was the real surprise." "The galaxy will never be the same," Clara observed. "No," Elena agreed, "it'll be better." Above them, the stars were coming out, countless worlds that would be forever changed by what had started here. Fort Bradley had begun as an experiment in military training. It had become a beacon of hope, a symbol of what was possible when species looked past their differences and learned from each other. The sound of mixed weapons fire echoed across the range, human projectiles alongside energy weapons, traditional ammunition mixing with advanced technology. Like everything else at Fort Bradley, it was a harmony of differences, a symphony of cooperation. And it was just the beginning.